So a while ago, I went to a computer surplus store looking around. I've actually picked up a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was really cheap, ranging from only a couple dollars. A couple of the things that I actually picked up from the store was a $5 iMac and this case which I got for free, which I'll actually clean up later. So in this video, I'll be showing off everything I did pick up from the store, along with a bunch of other goodies that I actually have in the box that I haven't shown yet. So let's get started. So the first couple things I did pick up was a mini HDMI to HDMI adapter, an Arduino Nano, and a composite adapter. I ended up using the composite adapter specifically for the composite port, so I could use it on a backup monitor, which is just a small display for a car camera. I ended up trying using it on my Pi, and also same thing with the mini HDMI adapter, and the Arduino Nano. I ended up just getting it just to mess around with, and just to have around in case I want to use it in a project. Next up, I have a sound card for a motherboard that doesn't have any audio ports whatsoever. I also picked up a Hyper 212, except it has grooves for an AMD socket instead of anything universal like other Hyper 212s. I'm going to basically just be using this for testing, as I don't have any mounts or anything for it whatsoever. I also got this Android tablet, so what happened specifically was it would not charge. So what I ended up doing was soldering wires to the positive and negative terminals on the battery, hooking up to my bench power supply. Long story short, the digitizer is dead, but it does work. And now we'll be moving on to the other stuff I got. Up next, we have a Lenovo Yoga, which I found in between a couple of cabinets. It has a Pentium, 4GB of RAM, and a 500GB hard drive. It does turn on and fully work, besides half the touchscreen not working, and it's completely shattered on the top right corner. Besides that, I can reuse this for something else or fix it up if I really wanted it to. And now we have GPUs, starting off with this 5670. It is a little bit dusty and it is a blower card, but after cleaning it off camera and replacing the thermal paste, it does work fine. I'm gonna say I got this and the other GPU for around $5-ish. And speaking of the other GPU, I got this GTX 550 Ti. It actually came in this anti-static bag when I first found it in a box. After taking it out of its bag, I can see that some of the parts were not removed, specifically the plastic covering the shrouds, as it does make it look essentially brand new. I did remove them later on, but the card does work fine. And one of my favorite things that I actually did pick up from this place is this old motherboard. It is a P5Q with 16 phases from ASUS, and let me give you the backstory. Long story short, a frequent customer kind of just came around, had some stuff to recycle, and he just handed me this box and said, hey, have it. It came with the motherboard and a bunch of the accessories, which were original and sealed, including the manual. So here's what the motherboard looks like. As you can see, it has a cooler on it, so it probably means there is a CPU on there. He also installed some RAM, which I did not know. And after checking it, each DIMM was 2GB each, even though they were different brands. But I did go there another time and I found matching sticks, except they were a higher capacity, which I might put in here. They're both 4GB sticks and it would max us out to 12GB. I'm gonna just slot these back in and I'm gonna take a look at the CPU, which is under here. And while zooming in, we can see what specific CPU it is. And it's a Core 2 Quad Q9650. I'm assuming the CPU was fresh and not really used, because this and the cooler looked like it had stock thermal paste and it looked like it was a little bit moist. And I'm going to show the last few things I did actually pick up right after I put this motherboard away. Next up, I did pick up this bundle, which includes the ITX board, power supply, and case, all for around $4. So what happened was this computer and an identical computer with a slightly different motherboard got recycled. The owner actually ended up testing them, and what happened was the CPU ended up being good in this board, but the board itself was bad. I was going to buy it for around $15–20, but I ended up passing it up, and it was still there a couple weeks later, so I ended up just buying it there for $4. Unfortunately, I could not get the motherboard to work, but I would like to revisit it later on in a future video. And finally, I got this iMac for around $5. So the story was, I was planning on getting another iMac from someone else in the store. I never ended up actually getting that iMac. But the owner had this lying around in the back. He said someone just dropped it off to recycle. He says there's no backlight. Possibly the backlight was out, or it could have just been the screen itself. So I ended up buying it for $5 since it did turn on and it was only the backlight. And what happened was I actually opened up the display. And what happened was they thought the backlight was bad, but the only reason they thought it was bad because it was unplugged, because the owner or whoever had it before actually took out the hard drive and they didn't bother plugging anything back in. So all I did was plug everything back in, install a new hard drive, and I've been using this on my workbench for a while now. As you can see, I have a custom sticker that says iMac on there. My name is actually Matt, which is why it's named iMac. And I've just been putting stickers on it, using it, and it's been working fine. And I've also upgraded this to 4 GB of RAM. I also might make a separate video on this because I actually got a Core 2 Duo from that place later on, and I might upgrade it so I can upgrade it to Catalina. Let me know if you want a video on this specific iMac, and besides that, we'll go to one of the last things that I actually did pick up. And this is one of the last things I did actually pick up, which is actually the Cooler Master case. I don't know why the FPS is low, but this is actually picked up for free as someone just recycled it, chucked it outside. I asked the owner if I could just have it, and he said sure, why not. As you can see, it was pretty dirty, so what I ended up doing was actually extensively cleaning it in the bathtub. I actually ended up getting a lot of the gunk out. I also gave it a little bit of a touch up, and this case is pretty mint. Since I do have the footage, I'm just going to show it and show you how I actually cleaned it. So first, I did actually strip the case apart. The cable for the power button was missing, so I just fabricated one from an old machine, and then after rinsing it off, it was fine. I then attacked the smaller components, starting off with the fans, the hard drive cage, and the top panels, and etc. They were kind of unusable at first, but after cleaning up, they did clean out fine, and I actually did reuse them in the case somewhat. The side panels and top panel were kind of if they had mesh in it, because I had to bend out the metal and then get the mesh itself just to clean. I also had to do this with the front panels. I actually ended up cutting my finger, but besides that, they did clean up very nicely. I tried cleaning them under the sink, but that didn't work, so I ended up getting them in the tub using a paintbrush, but that didn't work. So I ended up using a toothbrush, and that actually really did help because I could actually get through every little nook and cranny, and they actually cleaned it up very nicely. And here's the final product. This is actually a complete PC that I'm showing off right now. It is rocking the GTX 550 Ti I did show off earlier in this video, and it's also rocking my old CPU motherboard and RAM from my very old PC. I did plan on using this for a second build, but I just don't have the room for it, so it just sits, but it is a nice PC. Once I save enough money or find a desk miraculously, I'm gonna make a second build because I do have everything but a desk to build on. Well, I do have a desk, but it's really dinky. And besides that, that's pretty much everything I got from the eWays place. Let me know if you want to see more content like this. Otherwise, thanks for watching.